Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a GeekVerse review. My name is the Clown Prince of Podcast, Travis Now, because I didn't have much to think of. What are you gentlemen laughing about over here?
I'm laughing just how you said that. It's like, you don't got to convince us. You can convince yourself. I'm here. I'm ready to go.
I'm just saying it for the room, saying it for the room. I'll be the bad guy if need be, because here's the setup. Because Jessica might be on this roof, she's not in the room. We're waiting for her, and you know what's gonna happen? Jessica's gonna come to me like, "Oh, you guys start without me. Who did that?" I have no problem saying I did it. I hit the fucking button just to move on with everything. I don't want to sit at whatever. I'm excited to talk about Prey. We got lots of stuff, but yes, this is a Geek review. I'm Travis Now, and I'm joined by.
I am the War Chief, Kirklin Patzer.
I'm Adam Harcaster, Dylan Muss.
I am the feral Taylor Field.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are here to talk about Prey. This is a drop on Hulu or Disney Plus, depending on where you are in the world, or I'm sure some people are just watching it off the back of a van. But people are watching it. People are excited. It's the first Predator movie in 4 years, right, Taylor? I think I'm right on that. The Predator was 2018,
right?
Yeah. So 4 years. This is the first technically Disney acquired one. And so we're going to talk about that. If you've not seen it, we'll give you a nice non-spoilers portion, and then we're going to get into spoilers. So before we do that, Taylor Field, where can they find us all?
Ladies and gentlemen, you can find us with your internet connection in the search bar. GeekVerse.ca is our home base. GeekVerseCast our Twitter. GeekVerse on our Facebook.
Hasn't even fucking finished the movie. And we're just sitting here for nothing. That's why I don't mind being cut there. So yeah, Jessica's not gonna be on this review, but maybe we'll hear her thoughts on a newscast or something coming up. But check out all that stuff before. Links down below. Everything: podcast feeds, audio feeds, our podcast network feeds, our separate podcast feeds, the Discord, which was tons of fun this week, popping off all these big news. And it's cool because this weekend we got I might dip my toes in it. We got Sandman, we got They and Them, we got Predator. Everyone's watching different things in the Discord, which is kind of fun. People are updating, oh, I just saw this. So it's and Bullet Train's out, so it's there's 4 big things out this weekend on a random August 5th. So always tons of fun in there. And most importantly, head over to our Patreon, because you get episodes ad-free, early, and depending what tier, up to 3 episodes exclusive. You got the After 9 shows, you got the Bread and Butters, you got the originals, a whole bunch of good stuff in there. And you want to hit those, you want to hit the link. There you go. That's where you can find everything down below. And as we always say, it's a true thing. The more you support us, the more we can do with this show. Reviews, solo shows, spin-off shows, the whole shebang. And if you go to the top tier, not only do you become a Patreon producer, you get to pick a movie for us to review, like Aaron Brain, April Darkness, Smalley Biggs, and Josh Wright did. So you can go do that. And right now, it's summertime. They got some deals going on at Manscaped. You get an even better deal. They got 20%. You can get some even additional off of that by hitting that Manscaped code GVPOD at manscaped.com for free shipping and 20% off. So there we go. So let's get into this. I'm going to start with you, Mr. Muss. What did you think of Prey? Because I think your only history Predator is The Predator that we did for the podcast, right?
Pretty much. I've seen bits and pieces of the other one because my dad's a big fan of these movies. So I feel like growing up, they would just be on and I would watch scenes here or there. But I don't know if I ever sat down for one start to finish. So yeah, going into the 2018 one, that movie was kind of shit. It was a fun review and all that, but not a great movie by any means. But I also feel like I played some games, or I just know about the characters enough that I know at least what's going on a little bit. But truthfully, this one I was not too interested in until I found out yesterday that it's on Disney Plus on the day of release. I'm like, oh, okay, well that's a much easier pill to swallow. So I'm gonna go ahead and check it out. And I also heard it was quite good. So I mean that's easier to recommend if I heard that. So yeah, I really liked it. I really enjoyed this movie. I think it's just shot very well. That's maybe one of the standout things for me is just visually. It's just a fun journey to go on. Great, main character, protagonist, great action. I don't know if it's that surprising of a movie. I feel like the story you could predict what's going to happen just from the trailers. I don't know, it doesn't do much to subvert the expectations, but I just had a lot of fun with the little moments in this movie, and I'm excited to bring up what those are. But just not even plot things, but just little details here or there. But yeah, I'm curious to hear what you guys think as the big Predator fans, or at least, well, I know Taylor's at least a huge Predator fan. I guess the rest of you are kind of have a passing interest, but you at least have seen them all. So yeah, I don't know. That's about as much as I can say, I feel like.
Kirklin Patzer, the War Chief.
The war chief himself. Yes, this was an interesting one. Before cast, I was saying that I started it last night, and I started it in Comanche, that version too, which is like the dubbed.
Did you figure it out, Taylor? Because
I
Taylor
didn't-
mentioned me this
I
morning.
didn't
He's like,
figure it
I
out.
couldn't find it at all. Like, I feel like it's
couldn't
just
figure
an
it
easy
out.
setting. You just change over.
Did you do it on the web browser, or where did you do it? Did you do it on your
No, I did it
TV?
on my TV, and on my TV,
Yeah.
like I went to like the dub settings, and I saw we got like Italian, Chinese, everything. I was like, but I didn't see the Comanche.
I
one.
just did it on my web browser because I was editing last night, and then I think it was in like the trailer section, and then it was in there as well. So I was watching it. I ended up switching it back just because I wanted to like actually like see the voice or like the actors deliver the lines and everything. And it was an interesting one because yesterday I was trying to determine if I just really love this movie or not, or if I was being tricked. And I gotta say, I don't think I'm quite there on the loving part, but man, I really, really, really enjoyed this movie, and I was very surprised. Definitely some things to bring up, like in spoiler section, on some things that I think could have made this just such a better movie. But that being said, like it was still such a great quality. It really just made me appreciate like where I live, because this film was like it was filmed in I think Calgary, Alberta, but like still like just it reminded me of our backyard here. It just everything was so beautiful. I loved all like the costume designs and everything. I really liked the lead as well. So yeah, I was very surprised about this one. And yeah, I'm excited to talk about the nitty gritty.
I'm interested to get more into it. Why you think you were tricked into
Yeah, I'm
maybe
curious
loving
about
it?
that,
That
too.
like is
Yeah.
there some?
held a gunpoint in his house.
I was tricked.
Shay's like, you better like this or it's over. It's like, all right, I love Prey. It's
There
so
there
good."
was just certain moments where I'm like, this just feels so fan filmed, and I feel like it's because I just recognize so many like locations. It just seemed like it was filmed in my backyard, if that makes any sense. But then there was moments that I don't know.
I hope you
I'm
don't
gonna
got
save
that.
it. Yeah,
I
I'm
hope
gonna
you don't
save
got
it.
that mud water collection
And
thing
just
going
bear
on.
Oh, yeah,
traps
that's my
everywhere.
backyard.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't go in
Poor-
my backyard.
Poor Marco, he's being trained to like be a killer or anything. But
yeah.
yeah, I'll go next. I'll leave the. I was gonna call you Mr. Predator for last. I'll just say Taylor Field for last.
That's not a
yeah.
nickname
Don't
I
worry.
want.
The
The
podcast,
Yautja man.
Call him the Feral.
Yautja,
Come on,
the
that's much
Feral
better.
Taylor
Yeah.
Field. But yeah. So this movie, I've been excited for it ever since because like Dan Trainberg, I think we all like 10 Cloverfield Lane to varying degrees, but that was something that was very clever with the Cloverfield franchise. We've seen it go on different routes. So I was like, okay, that was just a really good. I have to watch it. It's been a while, but I just remember when I watched the first time that the back half was a little light, but most of the film was great. So I was always interested in the concept of that. Amber Mindhunter, people know I'm a huge fan of Legion. That's up there with Daredevil and Watchmen, which I think are the best comic movies, and she's in that quite a bit. So everything from that to it being a prequel to it being very similar to the first one, and we talked about this, they never really went back to the woods. They never went, like the first one happens in the jungle and they never go back. It's a city, it's a bunch of predators, it's Alien versus Predator, they go in another city. It's like, how come we never did this, the simple stupid method? And I think if I want the classic, have a good time, cheesy one-liners, the dude bro action-y movie, Predator, the original, is still the top tier. But if you're talking to me like what I think is the best film, this is absolutely it. And I think it's like bounds better than the Arnold one. The Arnold one has so much classic stuff, and it's such a fun, that to me is like a fun amusement ride type of thing. But this feels like a fucking movie, and I think they did a great job. I don't think the Predator's been scarier in any other film than this one. The amount of attacks they have, the gadgets they have, how they just, the choreographer, I should have looked, maybe I'll look while you guys are talking, but the choreographer, whoever like staged these fights, really good. Because I feel like even when we reviewed that last one, The Predator, it's like you have the Predator, this very cool character, but there was nothing memorable other than, okay, we joked about the walking with the gun and stuff, but all the memorable stuff was fake, like it was not planned. It wasn't like, oh, look at this scene. There's some really well thought out, clever fighting scenes, like escape scenes, stuff like that. And I really love this aspect of the Predator coming to Earth for the very first time, and you're seeing that. It's not an origin story, but just you're seeing that, them looking at this terrain, being like, okay, what is this? Animals, like, what is this? So I really, really like this movie. I don't think it's in like my top 5 of the year or anything like that. It's not like a 10 out of 10, but I would love, like we were talking about this in the Discord, I would love if this was Predator from now on, that we just went to different ages of him being on Earth and just, or them being on Earth. I don't know. It could have been a she Predator. I don't know. But any sort of Predator just being on Earth fighting different, like, time errors, people, cultures, whatever, that would be great. And the Predator's probably always going to lose because that's just what happens. But I thought this was very creative. It's a simple story, but I guess I think I'm just kind of fine with it because we got that last Predator where it's like, oh, where there's so many worlds and these Predators are fighting and there's infighting. I like that it was just a simple mono a mono, woman versus Predator. Well, woman and dog versus Predator, and let's see what happens. And I loved this film. Had a really good time with it. I probably will watch it again very soon because I think it's a good put on movie too. It doesn't feel like one you have to you got to build up to. You just watch by itself. But I was a big fan of it. So Taylorfield, take it away.
Yeah, so I mean, if you already know, I stayed up till midnight to watch this right away, and it was. As you said it, Travis, I think that's a good way to explain it. Like, there was something very simple about it, but there's nothing wrong with that at a time when your franchise is struggling in the box office. Now, when you look at the previous iterations, like The Predator, there were certain components that I loved in that film because it was perfect, like, for the universe of Predator. It was great seeing it on the big screen. That being said, they turned it into something that it really shouldn't have been with that storyline, and it didn't work out. But one of the big kickers, again, like you mentioned, is the anthology factor. And we were talking about this not too long ago, where I think that's a good key component for the Predator franchise. And I hope other horror movie franchises adopt this concept, but keep them as anthology, because where you have this film, it doesn't have to be directly related to whatever the other Predator films are. It's just, hey, this is this time period. There's a Predator on the planet, and this is what's happening. And it's great. Just like you said, let's focus on different time periods, because then you're not held to specific standards. You don't have to have this, let's double our efforts, like from Predator 2 to Predator 1, which is just making it totally wacky and more crazy. It's just, the standards are set, and I think that's where this really thrives, because they kept something very simple. They just kept the concept of what the Predator is, and just some components that people are familiar with. And it worked. It really, really worked. There were so many things that I really enjoyed. And this is something that Madison brought to my attention, which I actually really liked, was seeing it, like, the way they did certain, like, CGI things or certain, like, budget things, it was okay. But seeing it with a TV, like a 4K TV, the moments that weren't like really good, the 4K TV, I feel like really made you notice that they weren't good.
Oh yes.
But when it was good, it was
fair.
really, really good. So I think that's one of the things that kind of stuck with me as I was watching through it. And I think a kicker would have been like, hey, if this movie had that theatrical budget backing it up, I think it would have been absolutely incredible for what it could have delivered. But it's not a huge takeaway. I understand it's a Hulu Star streaming Disney Plus movie, but for what they did, it was absolutely awesome.
I still, even though I agree with you, I still wish they did a limited release here, because I would have loved to have seen this on the big screen for some of the
We can rent
moments
the
and
theater.
everything.
Let's just pop it up there.
Well, I'm not going to go that far. I like the movie, but I'm
Put it
not
on
going to
laptop.
be.
Look it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Well-
I completely agree with what you said there, Taylor, about like the CGI moments, because I feel like there was certain moments where it really did shine, whereas if you did see it on the larger screen, it wouldn't have been as noticeable. I remember thinking about that with like Shang-Chi, and I thought the CGI looked so much better when I saw it in theatrical, and then when I rewatched it, it was like, oh, okay, the CGI is really showing the limits at what it's at. So yeah, it is a shame that it didn't get a limited release in theaters, because I don't know, as you mentioned, the stuff that looked really good, it was fantastic. And
Yeah, it's just like Taylor said, they've had a couple of like meh ones. So they're like,
Yeah.
oh, dude, here, and hey, at least we got it. It seems like it's getting lots of good words. I don't know what their ideas would be, but before we talk about that, let's take our first ad break. And if you've not seen it, you can go watch the movie, come back. If you don't care, you can stick around. We're gonna do our spoilers review right after this. And we're back. You like that, Dylan? You like my transitions there?
You were dancing around it. You were
Yeah,
having
yeah.
fun with it, so I like it. Yeah.
No, what I wanted to say, because I didn't want to spoil anything, is like obviously I don't think there'd be like a sequel to this, because I feel like we're in spoilers now. Predator gets killed as always and stuff like that, and like I guess the only thing is if it's very well received and does well streaming, that might be the idea of like, hey, make something similar to this. But I kind of hope not. Like I would be fine if it's like there's a Prey 2 and it's the same kind of concept as far as we're going in different eras. But I don't think we need another Predator to come back to the tribe, and like this time it's personal, like that.
I agree. Like, we don't, and I stand by the fact of like, hey, keep these as anthology films. Give us different characters and time periods. That being said, feel like they really just alluded at the end to the fact that, hey, we're gonna maybe continue this story. Did you guys get that too with all like the Easter eggs they were dropping?
Well, I don't know these Easter eggs.
Because like
I'm
in
not
the
a
end
big
credits
Predator
scene,
guy.
it shows her returning to the tribe and like the descriptions, and then it shows a whole fleet of predator ships coming in. And then even then, she's like before the end credits scene or the credits rolled, she was like, "Hey, we need to leave. There's like a threat nearby or something like that. We need to."
That
like,
was just
go."
in the sketches, right? It wasn't an actual
And in
scene
the
that
sketches,
happened.
yeah, you
Okay,
see
yeah.
like the ships depicted as like coming in, like 3 of them, I believe it was, and then you have the predator, the pistol, which is a big component we'll talk about.
Yeah, I think you could. Like, I like the idea of the anthology better, but you could easily now have her and her entire tribe versus a bunch of predators. I think that is just the kicker, because that's usually what happens. Like, oh, if people really like Prey, we'd like a sequel directly to this, and not. People don't usually think in anthology terms, right? For movies, TV shows, yes, but for movies, not so much. Horror has done that, but yeah, I could see it. I wouldn't be opposed. I wouldn't be opposed because there was some. I love the landscape. I guess I would say that about this movie. I loved the setting. That was one of the cells already, but the setting. One of my favorite segments, I think some of my favorite shots is, and I'm going kind of deep in the movie, but when her and her brother are tied up against that tree, and it's like that. It's not dusk, but it's that kind of like the sun's just coming out. It's light. They're by this tree, and there's just like lots of like leaves blowing and smoke, and it's just like it's great for like the predator to move around. But there's just certain shots where they just have it zoomed out, and it just looked great. And there's lots of good landscapes in here, but that was one of my favorite ones. Was this kind of setting of the bait, and yeah, I really liked. Kind of everywhere we went, we didn't travel too much terrain, but everywhere we went, I enjoyed quite a bit. The marshy, type of water and stuff. So
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
Kirklin's backyard.
yeah. It was my backyard. I
you
love
got a
that
brother and
sequence.
sister pair tied up back there.
You'll never know.
Yeah.
Might be you next. Yeah, like I absolutely loved when her and her dog like left to just go like on her own little mission, and like there's not a lot of like noise other than her just like traversing. Like she's not talking. We're just going on this little adventure. That's when she come across like just the different animals when she's hunting, and then like the mud section. Like that was just, it was so fun to follow her and just see her like be a tracker. And I liked all the moments too of when she was like like mixing the medicines and stuff, and all those little detail moments. Like all of that was 10 out of 10 for me. All the Comanche stuff, I should say. Like I loved all of that. The usage was really, really good. And yeah, like the visuals there were absolutely gorgeous. The CGI that didn't work for me was definitely like the animals, I would say. And it's a bummer because I feel like those types of things is what will probably make this movie not age that well, because it's just really bad. Like right now, I can only imagine what it's gonna look like in the future. Whereas like if you actually just had, I don't know, a shot of an actual animal, or just, I don't know, try to hide it better, it could just make it age better. I don't know, a small little thing, but
it's funny because you guys brought that up. I didn't have that issue, and I guess it's because I remember when we did the Shang-Chi review, and I was big on like, hey, this final sequence, like there's lots of bad stuff going on here. I guess for me it's because the animals aren't in it too much, and they're just such a small proponent, where definitely when they're there, I'm like, okay, this is just a CGI model. I know, and most time we know that because actors now, they just don't work with animals anymore because just stuff happens. Go watch Nope. Like there's lots of bad things. You don't want a gory situation, but I definitely like it stand out. Like I know it's CG, but I guess because it didn't exactly take me out of it. And even the Predator, which I liked most of the time when he had the mask on, they looked like they went as practical as can be. Obviously, once you take the face off, they're gonna do CGI. Even though back in the day, both movies they did practical. So I think they could.
It wasn't even a lot of CGI when the mask was off. Like a lot of it, you could tell. Like,
oh really?
It was practical with like his pincers and stuff like that at times. Like
I feel like then they just did a
too.
CGI like overlay on his face because he looked very
Probably.
computery, and
I mean,
that's
you,
where
you can at least tell that almost all the time, or if not the whole time, there was actually a dude there. And,
yes.
and that's a big difference too, and just in terms of like walking around, because he obviously is a very lifelike character in terms of the proportions and the body type and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm on Travis's side in terms of the CGI. Like obviously I can tell that is not a real wolf, but I thought it looked really good. It could be better. I guess it always could be more lifelike, but I thought it was fantastic overall. So yeah, I don't think I have that same criticism. Now I don't have a 4K TV, so maybe you guys got those higher fidelity screens, higher frame rates, and it's like, oh, that looks bad. But yeah, for me, like, I don't know, that was, I don't know, up there with the best like animal CGI. Maybe not like, Disney
Jungle Book.
tier when they put their budget into things and take
Yeah.
time. But yeah, I don't know. I thought it looked really good, and I wanted to go back a little bit to what Travis was saying, just like with the landscape shots. Like I feel like there's at least 50 different shots in this movie that I would love to just screenshot and put as my computer background. Which since it's on Disney Plus, I can easily do that. But I don't know what it is exactly, because this movie is just like filmed out in nature, and it's just a lot of like greens and browns if you really simplify it. But whatever it is with like whatever they kind of cameras they were using, or if it was the editors and twisting the knobs to get that contrast and brightness correct. But I just thought like the nature, the trees and all this like popped so well, and there was just such a like crisp clarity to it all that I just thought it looked fantastic. I don't know. I would put this movie on in the background, as you mentioned, Travis, just to like have those beautiful landscapes just cruising around. Like it just looked fantastic.
So people come over. Oh, I love these landscape wallpapers.
They're just like animals getting gutted.
Well, and I think another thing is like, so we see a bunch of films, but so much of the IP stuff we review is like, when they're in these forests or woods, they're not really in these forests or woods anymore. You know, right?
Exactly.
And that's the thing that helps here. It's the same. It's that same Lord of the Rings versus Hobbit scenario, which those are coming out in a retrospective soon. But with Lord of the Rings, there's just such luscious colors, and it's just landscapes and real things. Where the Hobbit is just like it's Ian McKellen in a room and there's nothing there. And it's just like you can get as close as possible, but you can always tell there's like a certain shine, like doing something, a certain light or something about it. But when you're there, it's just like they're in the woods. they're at these trees. This is all. It starts to breathe, and I guess maybe that's where the animals even helped with me, because they kind of like sunken into that, and you're in this scenario and whatnot. And but yeah, I want to talk about like what Kirklin was saying. That's why I think I liked, as far as the simple story. I love that. Okay, there's this tribe. She's obviously skilled, but the whole thing is like she hasn't brought back a big hunt, and people are kind of like starting to. There's whispers like, she's probably can't really do it. She couldn't lead this tribe. Not that she has to lead, but just like. You can't be what these other guys are. You can't be
She's
this
not her
prime hunter and
brother.
stuff. Yeah, she's not her brother, even though her brother kind of fucking steals all her stuff. But I love the
He fucking
plot.
sniped that hawk though, or that
Oh,
eagle.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like that. That's impressive, man.
And that's where I loved both stories. As far as with her, it's simply, I'm going to go out, get a hunt, bring it back. And man, when we get to the end of the film, that's like such a fun, like full circle. But I love that we're just going to go out there, do a hunt, and that's it. And Predator's thing is just, I'm on Earth exploring the world. I love that his first kill is like a bunny, and he's like looking at it. He like, the Predators always take the skull and the spines. He took like the skull and spine of a bunny, because it's like, well, because like there's a chance that the Predator lands on Earth, and maybe Taylor would say no because they'd look into it. But like, what if they land on Earth and they just think it's just bunnies here? Like they don't know. And that's why I love like this story of her working her way up to get her kill, and the Predator working his way up through like the proverbial food chain in our world. And then just this meeting of the two, like I really enjoyed that. I just love that it was this collision course, and it gave us that.
It's funny how you made us watch that video of that guy fighting that bear the other day, and that scene pops in. I'm like, fuck, this is that goddamn scene all over again. This dude's fighting this bear.
Yeah. No nut shot though. The Predator didn't. He should have done that. He could have took out the bear a lot
should've.
quicker if he just nut shot at the bear. Oh.
Yeah, I think that storyline was super well done too. Of that, like she had a great mind, but she just maybe didn't have like all the skills or maybe the strength, or really it was just like the opportunity. So she was really only given, it seems like, this one kind of chance, and she fucked up because she's learning. They're like, you have to go now. Like, you can't assist us anymore. But I love that in the end, like, it was her being underestimated that was her advantage, that was able to give her that upper edge. Now, also that she was very cunning and she learned very well, and she was a great tracker. But just like narrowing it down to that, just being underestimated, and that's what gave her that one step up on the Predator in the end. I thought that was fantastic. Just all of that was great. And as you mentioned, Travis, I love that too. They're just climbing through that tournament bracket until they get to each other at the end for the grand finals. It's really cool.
Well, that's such a key core to the Predator. I mean, you have like on Schwarzenegger, you have
Donald Glover,
Royce, Donald Glover,
Royce.
It's just about all
Danny
these things
Glover.
I've seen.
Danny Glover.
Yeah.
I always screw it up.
All these things I've seen online, people saying like, "Oh, you have this." Again, they're just, I guess, a lot of sexist people there. Oh, you have this woman who just, half the fighter of all the people in her tribe. She just goes toe to toe with the Predator and just kicks his ass or whatnot. But it's not that. It's so much more, because It's observation. It is that cunning factor you said, Dylan, where in these films with the predator, other people get killed, and these individuals, they notice these things, they start to learn these things, and then they are able to, move up the food chain kind of, and just kind of adapt and then exercise that. And it makes sense in the narrative of the story where she sees how the helmet's using this, not the plasma caster weapon, but like a more lower key version of that. Just she able to figure out using the orange plant as well, and just how it drops the body temperature, like all these little things. And I love how it builds up to this this moment where she can kind of use it all against this predator. It's just it's awesome. It truly is awesome, at the expense of many people of her tribe, unfortunately. But it's just the way it goes, where you do have these people that are thinking with their weapons, like, oh, why do you have a rope tied onto your axe? Like, it's so much more than that, and they just can't see it that way. It's like they're just using their bows and arrows, their spears.
Need a
and
leash for your
stuff.
weapon.
A leash for a weapon, yeah. And it's not to say that they're bad fighters, because like in that one choreographed scene where the 3 hunters went up against that predator, and like that one dude just like jumps up in the air and like jabs the spear down to his fucking foot, and like just they were going to town, and it was having me on the edge of my seat, because I'm thinking like, shit, like it's gonna go sour, it's gonna go sour. And sure enough, like a wooden spear isn't gonna do much against this alien like dual swords that just like cut them in half. It's so well done. Jesus.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I'm just juicing over here.
I'm juicing. I was gonna say, Taylor, I want to ask just like a canon thing, but why the helmet, is it like a little less more sci-fi because even the predators at this point are supposed to be like because the predators we get now in the helmets, like in the Arnold area, it's like that covers almost their whole face. It's a lot more high tech and metal and stuff like that. I will say this is the first film I love the thermal, because I always hate how they do the thermals in the film. You can never see what the hell's going on, and it's just like so out there. But is that just what it is, that the predators still are like older, like hundreds of years older in tech, that's why they kind of have, or do you think this just the specific guy has this like, it looked very like not usual predator high tech,
like made of bone or something.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting, because yes, the director stated that they wanted this predator to feel like he wasn't as advanced as the current ones are, but he still has advanced weaponry compared to what we see on Earth. Now that
He
being
had some
said,
real advanced weaponry.
really advanced. Fuck. That being said, though, I do think it's up to interpretation, where you have a predator that still, obviously, it's not just a bone mask. Like he has the thermal optics, which is great. You can still see metal plating underneath the skull that he's
It's like
wearing.
the skin.
Yeah,
I want
and
mine
it's
to look
not
like
the
bone.
first time. I mean, we've seen predators where Mr. Black, the main berserker predator, has like that skull jaw line attached to his mask. So it's a very prominent thing with these predators. Again, this being a feral predator, this is a whole, in my understanding, a new kind of take with the predator, because obviously it looks very different. It's from a different part of where our main predators don't normally come from, and as we know now, there's so many different tribes of predators, and that's what makes this universe so rich, is because they're all rivaling against each other with their fights and big trophies, everything like that. So now you have this feral guy, comes from a very different part of Yautja Prime, I'm sure, something like that. Looks very intense and is super like just like has a personality to him. But it could even come down to, hey, I'm just going to go to this planet and just limit myself with what kind of weaponry and tech I have, just to make it more of a challenge. Totally up to the viewer's perspective, I would say.
Yeah, no, I was just curious about that, because I don't know if it was also just trying to aesthetically fit with like where he is right now and things, and I don't know if it's too like maybe they get more high tech helmets later, because like, man, the last time someone got sent to Earth, it's and this feral one though, we haven't seen in other Predator films. Do you think it just kind of maybe died out or something at some point? Because if they're feral,
I mean,
probably...
it's possible. Like here's like a brutal. Like they just look super brutal, and so I wanted to pull up like that and the comparison. Like they look insanely different, I would say. Like especially in the way their foreheads are. With the original classic ones, their foreheads kind of dip in a little bit, and then this guy, it's like very much protruding out, very narrow.
It's
and
like a football
vertical.
head.
Like a football head, yeah.
The other one's a lot wiser. Their craniums are just they're like Megamind.
Yeah.
But again, like I don't mind it, because we've had the berserker predators, and so we see these different tribes. I mean, maybe this is a colony that died out. That's a cool concept, actually.
Yeah. I really liked it too. It was just like another a good excuse to just give us like different looking gadgets that we've seen already from Predator. And you know me, I love my gadgets. And
You got your net weapon in this.
Oh man, yeah,
Oh
it
my
was awesome.
god, that was
That's
It's so
brutal.
vicious. It's so
Yeah.
vicious.
Oh
Yeah,
my God.
I just love the range that he had, and I did like that it looked like a more primitive Predator. It was just I don't know. I really like that concept, even if it like logistically it's like, well, like aren't they like still way like in the future with technology compared to us? But I don't know. It just worked. I really liked the usage of it in the story, and it just fit like the setting a lot more. And yeah, I loved his bone mask. It just seemed. I feel like it really fit too for it being this boogeyman of like the tribes people. Like they just have heard stories of something like this. Like I just feel like it fit that theme so much more than if you had like a RoboCop looking Predator.
Yeah.
You know. So I really like the choice of it, and man, like just his like bone mask, especially in like that foggy sequence that you were talking about, Travis. Like when it was on like posters and stuff, like one of the initial promotional pieces. It looks so good, and yeah, I loved his new shoulder like crossball thing that he had. That was so sweet.
It wasn't even
I
off his
loved
shoulder because it was on his wrist, right?
Right.
So they
Yeah.
totally
Yes.
changed
Yes.
that up.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. I loved it all. And his shield. Oh man, that was so sweet too. And just again, a vicious weapon.
Ooh. It was like intense when she like nudged herself forward between the rocks, and then it like
Oh
stopped.
my
Holy
God.
fuck!
Yeah.
Well,
I
just
think when
these
he chopped the tree in half, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
the
yeah.
guy. Also.
And the guy.
Sorry.
Yeah.
flip
The
in.
yeah. No, that scene with that shield when it was just he slams it down the rock and it's just like edging closer. And maybe it's happened, but I haven't seen it when she just like takes his little side thing on his mouth and just ripped. I was like, oh my god! Like, and that's where it's like again, this franchise has been around since '87. There's been comics and movies where I'm seeing stuff for the first time that hasn't happened in these. Like that's good stuff. And no, that there was some intense. I didn't think she was gonna die right there, but it is. You always love that, even if you have a main character, if you put in a situation, okay, how are they gonna get out of this? Because I'm thinking like, hey, what else could she do? Her arms are kind of tied up, and then she like wiggled it out. Like it was very well shot that way, of like some good claustrophobic moments when the Predator was around. And man, when he was like squaring up, whether it was with the Pelters or just the other tribes people, you think like, yeah, they got 4 of them, but it doesn't matter. He's just mowing them down. And like I said, this is the scariest to me the Predator's ever been. Even though this one loses, I wasn't sure how I liked the helmet just automatically locks onto anything that gets in its way. I thought that was like a little convenient to, he just steps there and it just locks. I feel like he would have to select that, go like, because I don't even know, because technically then if he has the helmet, shouldn't it just be like anytime he sees anything it just locks? It was just kind of a little too convenient for me, and I feel like at that point she kind of already had him dead to rights. Like I feel like he could have just drowned and that would have been still a fun way for him to die, but she needed that head, right? So I guess I get it. But so
I thought, sorry,
I
I want to cut in there.
Yeah.
I thought when he fell in the mud pit, because I just don't know much about Predator stuff, I thought like that Predator was going to get like encased in the mud, and that was the Predator who comes up in like the first Predator movie or something like that. I was like, that's kind of a cool connection, I suppose, but yeah, I don't know. I would have to think about if the movie ended there, if I would have felt satisfied or not. But I genuinely thought for a good 10 seconds that was the route they were going to go with that.
Well, what I was thinking in that moment is I thought he was just going to drown. I thought even if he's dead, I feel like as a tribe, I would not feel comfortable being around in the area. Obviously, she says we got to go, but it's like this alien thing, you don't know the stats of like, can it hold its breath? Like, can it climb out? Like, I could not sleep knowing just like 10 miles away, there's this thing just in the water. And maybe it's dead.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's completely gone. But yeah, but no, with the Predator, a few shots. My favorite, I don't know if it's my favorite shot overall, but the reveal when he fights that bear and he cuts it down and he lifts it up. And again, we've seen like similar things, but never to this extent in a Predator movie where the bear's blood just falls all over him, revealing it. And man, what a scary image. It's just this combination of transparent land and just blood. And like again, in this day and age, not even in Arnold 87 being like, man, this is crazy, I feel like this is even worse. Like there's been no scientific stuff at all, so you have this guy with a cloaking device just covered in blood. Even the bear fight was great to see that. Two of the other ones I liked is in the middle of that net tightening one when he like some guy went to attack him and he just took a bear trap and he just whipped it at a guy's face.
Fuck yeah! Oh,
It was just like stuff where it's just like they did the, oh, this would be cool. And then the other one was there was a guy that was running up to him and he like pushed him in the air, cut his legs down, and then like pinned him to the rock. And then when Mindhunter, what was the character's actual name? The main character's name?
Naru.
Yeah. So then when she looks over, it's just a guy
Naru.
attached to the stump of a tree with no legs, and it's just like she didn't see that happen. But what would you be thinking in this moment? You just look over, and this guy who was just fighting the predator a second ago is stuck to the tree, and he has no legs. And it's like he just tore through people. And my last shot too is when that whole scene was happening. It's just that great sequence in the middle, and she's running through the field, and the guy's like, "We got him," and she's like, "No, he got us," and they're running, and you just get this wide shot of her running through the field, and then the predator attacking that guy, and just blood spattering everywhere. It was just like, man, just shot after shot of like cool stuff is happening, and it looks good. It was just a plethora of great predator content in this movie for me.
I want to correct Travis. I feel like you're saying Mindhunter. Are you saying that she was in Mindhunter? Because I'm looking
her
at her
name's
IMDb.
Amber Mindhunter.
It's Mid Thunder.
Oh, is it
yeah.
Mid
IMDb.
Oh
I
my
watched a
God.
YouTube video on how to pronounce her name. Actually, it was
Okay,
Mid-Thunder.
I'm gonna stick with Amber for now till I learn that in my brain.
Mindhunter.
Wait, sorry. What is it, Taylor?
Amber Mid-Thunder. Thunder is how
Mid-Thunder.
Like Mid-Thunder.
Mid-Thunder,
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, I
So-
didn't know if she was like from Mindhunter, and that's what
No,
you were saying.
no, not yet.
Chick from Mindhunter.
Yeah.
It was just too close. I was like, something's amiss there. But just to quickly go back to that mud pit scene, we talked about the part with the predator, but I also loved the scene when she first falls in it, because obviously as soon as she falls in, obviously she's not dead here, and even like
If
before
we
it
lose our
happens,
lead.
Wow.
yeah, imagine if that happened. But even before she pulls out the axe, you're like, oh, she just learned how to use that. Of course, like that makes sense to get her out of there. But I still thought that scene I was just glued to my screen. Like, what is going to happen here? The tension of it. And I was like 100% certain that when she threw it the third time is when she was going to like hook it and then get out. Cause that just like is a classic thing. The rule of three, whatever you want to call it. It's always the third time when when it goes right. But it didn't. And she just like fell more and more. And you could it was the mud closing in. You can barely see her eyes anymore. Gets it one more time and nails it. So I thought the tension of that scene was just fantastic, and that was cool because that was just like there was no other creatures in there. There was no predator related in that scene. It was just really well shot, really well paced, and music and all that stuff. Also, the way the music as her ears went under the mud and the sound just got muffled, just amazing. Really, really well shot scene. And once again, very authentic. That was not. I don't know how you would do CGI mud bath like that, but whatever they actually did for the effects on that looked fantastic. It seems like someone scouted out a safe mud puddle that she could actually do that scene in, and she just nailed it because it looked really good. So shout outs to that scene as well.
Had to especially be safe for if any dude in a predator costume went in there and I'm gonna make it out, right? Oh, don't worry, Jim. Completely safe. Let's take an ad break today before you start slooging over more predator. So we'll be right back. And we're back. So Taylor, what were you going to mention?
I just wanted to kind of go back to where you're talking about that fight scene in the fog there. There was the brief starting point where the guys were on horseback and they were using Naru and her brother as bait on the tree. And the two guys with their rifles and their binoculars looking out at them. And you just see the guys just fall off, with your peripheral vision out behind them off the horses. It was just so subtle. And I was blinking holy shit, is this actually going down? It's just, it happened. And then, the guys turn around and they're freaking out and oh God. Now, I didn't understand fully what all the dialogue was because it was going really, really quick. And the English dub I had subtitles on. It didn't translate it to English. It just kept it as French subtitles, even though I set it to English subtitles. So
You should know your French.
I'm not, I'm not full French, but I wish that there was some serious dialogue that was going on that I wish I could have picked up on and kind of learned. So my next watch through, I'm going to properly see if I can dissect that.
See, I actually really like the use of there being 3 separate languages in here, and I don't know, I didn't turn any subtitles on. There was just certain scene, any scene with the Frenchman or when they're speaking Comanche. Usually it's they would just splice English and Comanche lines together. But to me, all of it worked. I felt like the context was portrayed through just the acting and the context of the scene. So I don't feel like whenever there was a non-English scene that I didn't know what was going on or need more context. Now I understand why you want to do that because you probably get a few more lines of some good information out of that. But I gotta commend the movie for, I feel blending these languages together and making a cohesive story without. For me, not having a single subtitle, it totally worked. And I felt like I got all the characters and what they were trying to portray in each scene.
Well, and on Dylan's point, and I don't believe this 100% because there's so many films that I think are like dialogue is key, but some people's like, oh, the best type of films are the ones you could watch on mute and understand what's going on. And I feel like maybe other than some dialogue at the beginning, you could watch this movie on mute and pick up the themes and what the
Sure.
plot is. You know, and like I said, I don't think that because you're going to tell me I want to mute a Tarantino movie. Absolutely not. That's the bread and butter right there. I don't want to do that. So, but that idea of even if you could watch, if you could not understand anything they were saying, I think this movie would have worked because I think all the actors do a good job with their facials, but you get the idea even at the beginning with the hunt and disappointment looks. So I think it does kind of add to that. So I like that as well, that we don't always have to completely understand what's going on because it's just at the end of the day, it's it's them versus a big alien, and you know that's what the key goal is. And I like how they go back and forth with them. Like when she finds all those, I think it was the bulls that were pelted first. I can't remember.
Buffalo.
The bison.
The buffalo thing, yeah. And that's where it's like at first you're just when you first see this, like, oh, did the predator do this? And like, oh no, it was these guys. And that's where it's like you would think from their perspective, anything that they see, they might just think, oh, it's the pelters. No, they're not thinking it is for sure. They're like, yeah, there's whispers, but that's like there's always whispers of like a nightmare monster. So they played that angle well, and all those pelters got really fucked up too. So that was a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I just adding on to what Dylan said about the usage of the 3 different languages. I thought it was really well done. And any time that they used like an actual like Comanche word or like phrase or something, I felt like, especially when it was used, like every time she would talk to her dog, it was just like a very clear command. So it was like obvious to the viewer of what's actually being spoken there. And then when they didn't like translate the French, I did like it because like from her perspective, like she doesn't know French. So it's like, it's just these foreigners speaking in like a foreign language. And I did really like that. I had subtitles on as well, so I like that it was still in French. So if the viewer could read that, they could still follow. So that was all good there. And yeah, like initially, because I had like the Comanche version on, I thought I was gonna be able to just like totally stick with it because early on in the movie she was just saying like really quick things actually in like the Comanche language in both versions of the film. But then when it got back to like the longer dialogue, it was just kind of bothering me when the lips weren't syncing up. But I didn't know. I think SBub said in the chat, you guys probably knew, but the voice actor the voice actor that dubbed it was actually the like actors
Amber,
themselves.
yeah.
Yeah, so I
That's cool.
didn't know that. So changes my opinion. Maybe I'll have to rewatch it on the Comanche version.
Right. I mean, the voice, the dubbing would still like because every line was
Yeah,
filmed
it's out of sync.
mostly
Yeah.
with them speaking English. So yeah.
In a perfect world, they would have done 2 versions, but that's a tough ask.
I wonder if we'll ever be like somewhere in tech where they can just like edit that and it'll look like normal.
100%.
Yeah,
I think
We'll be there in
with-
like maybe 10, 15 years.
Yeah, I think things like I'm not saying this because I'm watching it currently, but things like how Squid Game blew up on Netflix, and like you can whether you watch subs or dubs, like if more foreign content blows up in North America, I think that will be a thing. They will start to figure that out. So I don't think it's off the path. So
yeah.
what do we want to go to next or shout out next? Anywhere?
Well, I mean, we were kind of just talking about Amber Mid Thunder. I want to just like we've praised Tom Hardy a lot on this podcast for his eye acting. She conveys so much with, I mean, her facial reaction in general, but like her eyes just tell so much about how she's feeling, where she's at in a moment-to-moment basis. I thought she was fantastic, and even just little things too. Like obviously they throw a lot of face paint on her throughout this movie, and it's usually darker. And it kind of draws your gaze to her eyes once again. So you're like focusing on this and giving her the opportunity to like just deliver these, not even lines, but just deliver these moments through just her eye acting. So I am just like incredibly impressed with her performance here for what is like a movie that's like mostly an action movie about like a badass predator character. Like she shines so well, and I'm very excited to see her in more things. Mindhunter as next on my list. Yeah. But no, she's great. So I know we've already talked about her somewhat, but just had to really praise her, especially with those eyes. Like she just nailed it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I feel like as you mentioned, like the war paint that she had, it just drew like so much attention to it, and it also just adds into what Travis was saying that like you really could watch this movie on mute just because like her like her face just portrays so much and it says so much without actually saying anything herself. So
And this is like a little bit to do with her, but to me, one of the most badass images from this franchise overall now is her bringing back the Predator head with the Predator's blood, because that's like a thing they do in that culture, right? They're showing I've destroyed one, conquered this enemy, coming back with the glowing blood. And then again, I imagine what that tribe would be thinking. You just think it's a normal day, and she walks
Never seen
up.
that color before.
Yeah, never seen that color before, never seen that head before. You would just be, and you would believe her in that moment when she says, "We gotta go." You'd be like, "Yeah, we gotta pick up camp and everything." But I look very forward to next year to drafting her, so everyone can just don't worry about it, leave her alone. But no, like I said, I had seen her in Legion. Legion, she had not a similar role, but a role where she had less dialogue. As the show went on, she got more and more. But I think this is a thing where it feels a little similar to Arnold, where I think this is going to be more breakout for her. There's sometimes movies and shows where there's just a performance that happens and you'll get a lot of people. And I was just looking at IMDb, I guess she's a part of a show right now. But if that ends, I think there'll be a lot of people that are like, oh, have you seen Prey and her performance? Because there's lots of great stuff going on, but she really anchors that. And I think we've seen it before where if you get a lower tier actor or actress, it can just kind of be she added a lot to the movie when it could have just been a fine person. Like, oh, you just got to fight the Predator. That's all you need to do. But she raised it. So I do think we will. And I'm not even saying like IP stuff, just in general, you'll start seeing her. And like, when we get like Knives Out and those type of ensemble pieces, like she's going to be somebody that I could just see like starting to be added to these things where it's like you have the stat cast and Amber's also in it. It's just so I'm excited to see where she goes from here and whatnot. So.
All right. Quick note on what you were saying with the bringing the head back with the glowing blood. Like once again, like I talked about how well like just the nature and the green leaves and trees and all that really popped. But to even have like this other green that popped even more just stood out really well. And I thought the visuals or all that were really good. Like I can definitely see you guys are coming from on critiquing the CGI of the animals, but I mean when it comes to the Predator itself, I think they really nailed it, especially like some of the invisibility stuff when the blood is just pouring down him and stuff. Like all that stuff looked great, and I really liked just the visual of the glow stick blood. I thought that was a lot of fun.
100%, yeah. I feel like just going through the Predator retro with like each more recent movie, I would always shout out of just like his thermal vision just looking better and better. And man, this one is this is the best it's ever looked.
Yeah.
Like when he first saw the wolf, that was just like all the details. It looked so good. It's funny because this is like the most primitive Predator that we've seen on film. But like all of the visuals with him looked fantastic. And I think it helped so much that they did have like a practical actor in the suit. I saw apparently he's like 6'9" too, just like a
He's
huge
a former
dude.
NBA player, I think, too, right?
Yeah, there you go. So
He was what,
like,
sorry?
I think he's a former NBA player or still
okay.
NBA, but he's
Okay.
NBA related.
It makes
The actor
sense.
or the Predator? Like the Predator retired.
The actor who played the Predator. Yeah.
Playing on the
Yeah.
Lakers next year.
They kicked him out. He was a little too rough on the court.
Oh, he's
He's a
invisible.
gold
Where's this
medal
guy?
Olympian, apparently.
Look at that. Fuck.
Oh,
So,
damn.
holy shit.
The Predator?
That's it.
Or
What
that guy?
I'm trying to find
NBA
out for
gold
what, but I can't get the answer to that.
Man, what a career! You won a gold medal, and you also get to be the Predator. That's fucking awesome. Like that dude's living
Yeah.
well.
In 2019, he retired from professional basketball to pursue
There
acting.
you go.
So
There you go. And it worked out. He's the Predator.
killing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He literally
he's
is
killing
killing it. Yeah.
But yeah, and also like with his blood, I feel like I don't know, like there's been I feel like previous versions where it's looked like more radioactive, but this one it just looked really good, and especially when it was just like covered in her. I liked how also like looking back in the like a promotional poster where it's like replacing that war paint that she had like under her eyes. Such
Yeah.
a sweet shot. Oh, I love it.
And I was not that I want to say worried, but the posters had it all over. I was wondering how they're going to use the blood, and I thought it was used really well as far as just tracking and stuff like that. And there were a few times where I wondered he would get like bit by the dog and he would be bleeding, and then he went like the shield went back on, the blood was just kind of gone. I think that was like a little inconsistency for me. Now they do show in the middle him like doing the med kit pack and everything like that, but there's times where I felt like there could have been a trail earlier on. But between the thermal, the med kit, which I know Kirklin you hated in the first one, this is looking much better, and then
This one's
the
looking much better.
the invisibility we talked about in Predators where it looked good, but yeah, the first few movies it always that translucent thing effect looked as good as it could for the 80s, like it but it always stood out as like this doesn't work. Like it works. Like you suspend your disbelief, but here it just worked pitch perfect with like how you would see him, how you wouldn't, things like that. So,
One other thing I want to note about the Predator's technology, the wolf skull that he got. It was always a cool thing. Like we got to see in like AVPR
oh,
and stuff like
thank
that
you.
when they're like
Yes.
cleaning the skulls and stuff. And in Predator 2, same thing, cleaning the skulls. And this, he just sprays. I'm assuming it's probably the same product that he was using on his body to like seal up his wounds, because it was just like it was sealing away, like and just retracting and melting the.
Well, I feel like that'd be something different
cauterizing.
though.
It's like
I
the
feel if-
opposite.
yeah, I feel like he's spraying that on his body. It'd be like, oh, like he's
Well,
like,
I took it as like it was like a
Screaming.
cauterizing spray.
yeah, you just hear this.
It's like when Mrs. Doubtfire's on fire.
Yeah, what's that? No, I feel like it's a different tool, that one. But
I just took it as like a cauterizing spray all around. He was just like dousing the skull.
I
two
took
in
it as like
one.
an acid, like an insta acid.
Yeah,
And I thought it was so
just
cool
gets rid of
because
all
when
the
he ripped the
flesh.
head off and it still had like the head, I was like, oh, what are they gonna do with the skull? And it reminded me of just like a little effect in Force Awakens. Remember when Rey like made that bread and it was really cool, like just a moment that you don't even need in the movie, but just like a fun shot. Like, oh, like same thing as this. Is like I didn't need it fully explained in my mind though. I was like, oh, I wonder what you do with that. They didn't have to do that, but it was just a nice little thing. Oh, he has this spray that's just like part of his cleaning routine for his trophies, and it's gonna melt off any excess skin material. I was like, that's awesome. Like that's just something that they thought out, and it just like enhances the lore a little bit better. Because now, anytime in the future, when I think about other Predator movies, like, oh, that's how he does it. He has this little spray. Does that, and he gets rid of the materials.
Well, it's
Great.
been in different ways too, right? Like in the first Predator movie, you see him like sucking like the guts out of the skull. In the second movie, you see them like connect their tubes and sucking stuff up. In AVPR, it's neat because you see like the skull, and he's got this laser that he's just shining on the actual bone, and it's just peeling the skin back. So it's cool how they have these different ways of doing
What
it.
what is the importance of this thing? Because I felt like when he was doing that, there was something more I should have been understanding. Like
To
it
the
looked,
skull?
It looked cool, yeah, but I like I don't have the history. I don't know what I'm missing there.
It's just trophies. That's why you see him like hook it onto his belt. It's just a rite of passage kind of thing. So biggest trophies, more respect that you can command, sort of thing.
I see.
Yeah, worthy opponents, you could say.
I'll throw this
He
other
brings back the
question I
bunny.
had, and then, I mean, he was always ripping out the spines of things. What's like? Why is that? Is there a reason?
just his trophy. That's just
Yeah.
that
Once
they
again,
just like
same thing.
like in the
Collecting
first.
spines.
Like bones?
Yeah, like
specifically?
not in the first one, but in the second one, it was just when they got on the ship. It's just lots of heads with spines, head with spines. I think it's just aesthetically is like,
Okay.
oh, this we like the look of this when they made the films. But yeah, that's just like their trophies is the head and the spines and stuff like that. Yeah, I would have laughed if he came back from Earth with just the bunny one. Like, yeah, big successful hunt here on Earth. They're like, yeah, what you got? And like, right
It's the
there.
most dangerous predator
Yeah.
on this planet.
Put up a huge fight. You wouldn't believe it. It was hard to catch him. He's quick. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll look at my notes, but I don't know.
I
if
got
have anything
I got a
else.
couple other things. One thing we somewhat touched on this. We talked about how they're kind of going up the food chain until they fight each other. But I like that we also see other just prey predator interactions throughout this movie. Like at the start with the snake and the rat, that was fun. And then the bear, like when we get introduced to the bear, he's eating a deer or something, some sort of creature like that. And then go ahead, Taylor.
I just want to say that scene with the bear. I don't know. I've been playing Skyrim a lot lately, and I just got like PTSD when the bear came up around the hill and like flanked her. It's such shit. I've been in that situation.
You just got to download the dog mod that the dog will run away and avert the bear from you. And then the lion as well. The lion was I guess had captured one of their tribe members, and that was the interaction there. So I don't know if I'm missing any, but I like that we saw just a lot of these kind of nature doc moments. Obviously, it's all CGI, so it's not quite nature doc-y, but once again, just seeing these kinds of interactions on a small scale. And most of those were kind of early on in the movie before we got to the predator fucking people up and seeing him uninvised and stuff like that. So I liked those touches throughout. I think it kind of built up the tension, and obviously the predator is always relevant because he's kind of tracking those things, following them around, and presumably, seeing one creature destroy another one kind of gets him off, right? He's like, oh, that's an enemy. I want to be better than
That's
that
what
guy.
I'm here for.
So,
That's what
yeah.
he saw with the wolf. He saw it happen. He's like, oh, and then he just
Right, the wolf
just
too, yeah.
backhands it, and the wolf's ready to go. Like,
Yeah, that poor wolf too. And that classic 5 seconds later shot, all the guts spill out. Ugh.
Oh, I know. Put up
Yeah.
a fight though. I respect the wolf square. Like the fight, it bit the ankle, it pushed it away, and then took out the swords. And the wolf's like, "No, let's fucking go. I'm gonna do this." And I thought he had him for a second because I was like, "What happened?" He he was
kills the
gonna.
predator. Then and there, the movie's done.
It
Should've
becomes
stuck to
her versus
bunnies.
the wolf. Yeah, yeah. But no, I liked that the wolf. He tried his best. R.I.P. You know.
That was a cool reoccurring thing too. It was when you see these prey animals like you were talking about, Dylan, and the predator, you can tell is just standing there cloaked, and then it's like a sudden realization where these wild predators are just kind of like looking around, trying to like kind of hone in with their senses. Like the snake caught on, like, okay, there's something right there. And
the
then
rat
like,
had no idea. That was
the rat
a
was
dumb rat.
fucking clueless. Oh my goodness. But yeah, very cool. And there was that beginning shot too. I think Espo's mentioned in the chat earlier when it's just like this ant crawling and then it crawls up onto the predator. It's like shit. Just these cool little like cinematic moments were very visually appealing.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Didn't the ant get eaten by the rat? Is that what started that? Or is that?
I don't remember what happened to the ant. Still on the predator's body.
I think that's what happened. I think the rat ate the ant, and then the snake ate the rat, and then the predator ate the snake.
Oh,
That's
he
kind of a
fucked up.
fun
There
little
you go.
chain of
Yeah.
events all in like 30 seconds.
Food
Oh, it's a
chain,
bigger fish.
baby. You know, it's bigger fish.
Exactly.
Yeah, I really, just getting back to the bear fight scene, I like how they showcase just like the ferocity of this like huge bear. Like it actually like fucked up the predator for a moment, and then the predator kind of gets up, and then when the bear like full charges at the predator, he just like bitch slaps it basically and just like kills it right then and there. Like, oh, so epic. And then when he picks it up, like again, it just showcased how ferocious this thing is, and like by that point it's still invisible, just covered in blood. And fuck, like no, like you would just be thinking you're seeing a ghost, right? Like what is this thing like that's so strong? It's picking up like the strongest creature that we've like ever seen. Like the bears are just the apex predator, right? And then you see this thing just pick it up over its shoulder like it's nothing.
Getting
Just-
decimated.
Oh, the showcasing of that was fantastic.
Again, her visuals too, just her reaction to that going on was like,
Yeah.
she's
I love when she
water, but
yeah, exactly. She just goes in the water and just like get the fuck out of there, whatever. I don't care if I'm going down a rapid.
Yeah.
I gotta get away from this thing.
This is a
and then it
better
goes like the
situation.
predators. It goes like the predator's vision, and you just sees her like clear as day. It's just like, oh, well,
yeah.
there goes the human. Yeah.
That's the same too when she's running away from the two guys that got fucked up, and she meets her comrade in the grass, and he's like, "Oh, I got him!" And it just goes to predator vision. You just see this red fucking dot.
Yeah.
He's like a fucking hacker. This guy.
It's like a Call of Duty moment where the sniper, like you watched the replay and like you thought you had them. They had you in your scopes way longer before. Like, oh,
They don't know I'm here.
Yeah, he's broken. Oh, he ain't broken, man. Let's see. I think I mentioned all my particular things to shout out.
I think I said it in the non-spoilers, but just all the costume designs, like it looked all the details that they had, it just looked fantastic. I just wanted to reiterate that because they did such a good job with all those aspects of it.
No, I agree.
Oh, go ahead.
I got a couple more things here. Okay, so we talked a lot about some of the ways she kind of overcame the predator in the end. Another thing too was with the gun. I like that it was kind of like the one moment I felt like in this movie where the pace slowed down when she was learning how to use the gun from the guy as she was kind of patching him up. And I like that, she was actively listening to him, trying to learn. And, I love that she fucked it up when she first tried to use the gun. And then, she had to adjust, put more gunpowder in there, and then got it right the next time. I just love that in movies when your protagonist, your hero, is fucking up, but then, they pull through in the end. And, it would make sense that, like, this gun is a very advanced technology tool compared to what they are using. So for her to just nail it on the first try, get a headshot, and for it to be over with, I think would have been too easy. So I like that she had to mess it up once before she got it right. Also, kind of a little thing, when she's first going hunting, like at the beginning, when she's just trying to catch that rabbit, she's doing like these power slides into trees and stuff.
Very Aloy, man. I kept thinking
very,
about
very
Aloy the
much so.
whole time. I was like, man.
And I mean, those were fun shots, but I feel like it was interesting because it would always be the, like, she would lose all her momentum in doing that, like it would be the final move in her final trick in her tool belt, whatever you want to say, their final tool in her tool belt. But then near the end of the movie, she's like jumping off trees in kind of that same way where she's like almost sliding into them and then like leaping off them and continuing. And that's also, I think, when she baits the predator into like those spikes that she sets up in the tree as well by using that trick. So I like that we kind of saw that the evolution of that particular move. Travis, you just mentioned this, but like often throughout this movie, I was like, man, I just want a fucking video game of this. I want to go crafting,
100%,
collect things.
yeah.
build up my gear. I want to like challenge this predator in the right way after I set up some traps. Like I just want this game now. Like this would be so cool. I know we've had a lot of Predator games, but I think something that's like a smaller open world thing with kind of crafting and stuff like that could be a very cool game. And to touch on a couple of the survival-y things that I liked about this that Kirklin mentioned earlier, I really liked the kind of foraging for plants that happens like many times in this for different kinds of plants. Like there's the ones for medicinal purposes, but then obviously the one that lowers the... I don't know if it was lowering the heart rate or the body temperature. I think, Taylor, you said body temperature.
I think
It's
it was
one of
body
the two,
temperature.
I guess those maybe are kind of the same thing.
I think I took it as almost both.
Yeah.
Just because like the Predator just couldn't track them, which I wanted to show the scene where he was teaching her to use the gun. Man, did I love the Predator just stepping on his leg to be like, yeah, something's up here, and that guy just screams like, oh, it's over for you. But I just loved that baiting him, just because for a while when he looked, it's like, okay, I thought it acted maybe a little too fast for the Predator to not like. He had just consumed it, and the Predator shows about 30 seconds later, and already like low heartbeat, low temperature, like this.
Well,
I don't really.
We saw that with her too at the end, right? So we had seen it more than once. I know what you mean.
Some great drugs
but I guess
going on.
At least they were consistent with it.
Yeah,
And
true.
it was like,
But I love the Predator just sneaking that out. Just okay, I'm gonna step on this guy's leg just to check. And unfortunately, there's no way you're gonna withhold this pain and scream from that. So really good. And just gross shots of her just like touching the bone and touching everything. I was like, man, I could not have been.
Oh man, the rats! Fuck. That was,
Yeah. We see her at the very start of the movie, she's like sharpening her axe, and then later she's kind of doing the same thing. She's preparing those traps. I like that. I love that scene when they find their buddy who had been attacked by the lion, and then they all just get to work to build a stretcher out of materials that are around. Like that was so much fun, and it felt very authentic. I don't know how authentic it truly is, but it felt like it. And then we've kind of mentioned it, but like the grappling hook axe, just so cool, like just so much fun. And, we kind of get the training scene when she's going back and forth attacking the two trees. And when you see that it's going to come up again later. Yeah. And we kind of see it in a couple different ways. One, she uses it on the Frenchman to, like, fuck up two of them at once kind of thing. I really like that. And then we also kind of get it in that final fight scene in a couple different ways as the dog brings it around and then she wraps it around, pulls it in the
combo.
pit. So, great combo attack. And then, that kind of leads into my final point, which was just that, Sunny, the dog, I saw the dog's real name is Coco. Shouts to Coco, great actor,
Shouts out
did
to
fantastic in this movie, nailed every scene, and of course just brings a lot of heart to it. And also, you're so worried. Whenever that dog runs off screen, you're like, oh shit, is that the last time I saw it? I hope not. So shout outs to Coco.
Especially at one point, the dog was in the crosshairs of the bow, like arm, and I thought it was over. I'm like, oh, this is the finale. It's just gonna be her v. Yeah, it's over for you, dog, and it's just gonna be her v Predator. But no, he survived it. So look out for Golden Geeks.
Came in, just whack that dude in the head.
Yeah. So look out for Golden Geeks. That dog, best supporting actor. He's making his way.
I legitimately wrote it down. Like it's a meme, but like I'm doing it. I'm gonna throw it out there.
I was worried for the dog. Even with the wolf scene, I feel like they could have made that wolf just look a lot bigger and ferocious. It was a little too looking like a dog for my liking when the Predator.
I swear, until you guys said wolf, I thought it was a fox or like a fox-like sort of thing. So I have to rewatch that scene. That's where I had the problem.
I think they had like an actual dog initially, and then when it got into the fight scene, it was a CGI creature. Because like at first it looked a lot better when it was actually interacting with the Predator. I found. I don't know. I might have to rewatch to really determine that, but.
They just sick a dog on the Predator actor, and they're like, just duke it out, guys.
Get him! Get the gold medalist!
Yeah.
S-Bubs in the chat, you said something, and I'm going to have to counter what you said there. You're commenting. Dan Trachtenberg, is that how you say his last name?
Yeah, Trachtenberg.
Was playing Horizon and loved the music and hired the composer, so maybe he got inspired by that. Well, fun fact for you.
Very fun.
That is a lie. He was actually playing the one and only Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And that's the composer.
No.
Sarah Schachner, I believe.
I'm so mad S-Bubs is wrong about this one on so many levels because I liked the Horizon story much better because I was like, man, let's get Dan to do the Horizon show over there.
The Horizon
Netflix,
composer is
Horizon
Yuri
soundtrack is good
Martin
as well.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Damn.
there you go. Sorry, S-Bubs, can't win them all. It's all good.
It's not too often that you can best S-Bubs on like
Yeah.
the Googling things. So good job
yeah.
there.
Yeah. Taylor, you mentioned some Easter eggs. Did you want to talk about any that you had? But I know you shot out the gun. Did you want to talk about that quickly?
Yeah. So this is obviously the
Whoa.
gun that
Get it
she
ready.
was working away with in the movie. Now, for
Mhm.
all you Predator fans out there, if you've seen Predator 2,
Or
you
a
might recognize
retrospective.
it. Or a retrospective.
Oh,
Yeah. There's this fancy little pistol right here that our main character, Lieutenant Harrigan, gets given to him by none other than this elder Predator here.
None other.
So,
Man, that predator on the left, like, did he just get smacked with a frying pan or something? Like, look at that head.
a few frying pans, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you have an interesting setup here where obviously Mr. Farrell here got his fucking head blown off by that
Mr. Farrell.
pistol, and now she has the pistol. So what's gonna happen?
She's gonna
What
get
are we
fucked
gonna
up by
get?
some predators.
Or are these guys gonna come to town and just fuck them up? Like it doesn't. I know that they're alluding to, and like the end scene S-Bubs, here's that shot that we were mentioning. This is that final clip here where you see like the 3 ships and then her down below. She's got the war chief staff and like the tribe. It doesn't really make, at least in my head canon, sense for predators to be like, oh, a predator died on a hunt, well, we're going to go to war against you guys. That's not really
Fucked
how
up
it
my boy.
works. Yeah, it's like if you failed on a hunt, you failed on a hunt. That's
Yeah.
your fault.
But you've said could there be more of these feral type of predators, right? Like this this species of them. What if they are like that though? This species where they're
That's
more,
very true,
you know.
and that could be the case. And I'm just saying, like, if we get a colony of these feral fuckers coming around, and they're just like, you know what, you killed our NBA player, we're gonna come and we're gonna wipe you guys
gold
out.
medalist, gold
Yeah, our
medalist.
gold medalist.
Well,
you killed
but
them.
you would assume though, because she still has that gun, that if you were to do a sequel, that she would have to die or that gun would have to be taken, because that gun gets taken to the 90s, right?
It does, yeah.
So,
So if these
how do they
guys
acquire that
come
gun?
in, well, if these guys come in and like do a fight against the
I
feral
love that you're
dudes,
just cutting
like
back and forth.
Well,
between
what if
things.
it's this where the Pharaoh goes there and they lose again, and then these predators like, you know what, these people, we should actually go test this out, because they're taking out a lot of, like, even if it's another tribe, they're taking out a lot of our species.
they're
Let's
killing
go
that other
see.
brand.
And what
go check
happens
it out.
and here's your big jump, Taylor. What happens if the predator that Arnold meets is the predator that kills this tribe of people and stuff like that? You know, like, what if that species of predator does go back and kills them? They're successful while the feral ones are not successful.
Well, it's totally possible. I mean, at the end of the day, they could really do whatever they want. The only thing I know of story-wise right now is the one that Arnold meets. That's a predator that's been for generations just residing in like not the Vietnam border, around that area of the world.
For
though.
generations, he just stayed there?
Well, yeah, remember like the main female protagonist was
Yeah,
talking
like-
about how like just the summers this thing would always come around killing the men and everything like that. And predators live for hundreds of years. That's another component too. So
Of course.
of course, yeah.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, but S-Bubs is right. Isn't that what they did in Predator 2? The Predator died and a whole squad pulled up. They did. It's a very weird scene, but it's not out of the realm. It is weird because they just start popping up, Dylan. They're just like,
Well, that was because
congratulations. in a
they
way.
only popped up because I mean Harrigan was in their ship. I mean, it's not like they're
True.
gonna hide. Like
Yeah.
you killed our boy in our ship. I mean, you
But
get
again,
an
I think
audience.
that is smart of them saying that this is like kind of a different species, because they might act a different way, right? So they
That's
might hold a
true.
grudge. So
And I'm definitely not opposed to that. I mean, you got the other ones that just they don't go to your planet; they take you to their planet, and these guys just maybe they do
yeah.
that. So
Plus, also, if this is in what it was 1700, and then the first time we meet Arnold is 1987, that's over 200 years. So their tactics could have changed as well too. Because you don't have an origin point for the Predator in their first thing. So maybe like, you know what, we can't take things so personal. If you die, maybe this starts that. Maybe what happens is this
Don't
one
take it so
dies,
personal.
and but maybe this one
This
dies.
time, it's
A whole
personal.
tribe goes there and dies. Like, yeah, we should stop doing this. Like, in the future, if you die in a hunt, that's it. It's over. So that could be the start of it. There's lots of room to play if they wanted to, or they could just don't care and like, yeah, we're just gonna do a sequel. Let's get some more predators in there.
Give us the Yautja politics movie.
Oh
or
my god,
series.
just them at the Senate, just like,
Yeah.
Hey, we told them not to go there. yeah.
But what about the droid
definitely.
attack or the droid attack on the Wookiees?
What about
Shouts
the
to
bear
S-Bubs
attack?
here. He
Bear attacks on
South
the
or
Yautjas.
Central America, not Vietnam. So there you go.
Maybe he starts here and he moves over to South Central America. So
Well, they keep dying in
He's
their
got
movies.
vacation homes.
That's the problem.
yeah. Anything else to shout out?
I have one other thing. That's kind of
He had like his wrist bomb that he has in like all the movies, but it was like a multi bomb. That was so cool, and I love even just like the shot when it goes in the air and you just see the lights go off. That was sweet.
Yeah.
That
That one that sprung up too, that like would cut people too. It was like,
oh yeah, that was deadly. And then we got that one line too, as Chris shouted out earlier. If it bleeds, we can kill it. Travis, how that make you feel?
Not good. I don't like it. I because it's Dylan. That's a line. That's what Arnold says in the original one. And every Predator,
like every movie, they gotta have these lines.
Every movie, like Predator 2 has "you ugly motherfucker," and then Predators has the "come on, kill me, I'm here, do it." And I thought she was gonna do that at one point because when he was in the mud, she's like, "Come on," and I'm like, "Oh no!" But she just wanted him to step forward. But I thought she was gonna do the "kill me, I'm here." Like, stop it! I just
speaking Arnold accent.
Kill me, kill me, I'm here. Even when you watch, when you watch the Kamachi version, it's still in Arnold's voice, complete like English. She's like, "Come on, kill me." But no, I've said this before that I don't like the. Big examples, obviously, No Way Home, when Willem Dafoe is something like a scientist myself, right? I don't mind when the same character says it in another context somewhere else, because we do that with each other where we say lines and stuff. I just hate this is literally 200 years later and characters are saying the exact same lines to the Predator, or so, like, if it bleeds, it can kill it. So, yeah, I didn't need that. It's I liked the gun, like, Easter egg. I didn't need the line Easter egg, but they just do that, so...
It's generic enough of a line for me that I also don't have the reference of like pulling that line out of my Predator knowledge because I don't have it there. But so you know what, my point's irrelevant because this is the first time I've heard the line anyway. So take me out of this.
I was gonna say too, like going forward with because I'm assuming we're gonna be getting more Predator movies and stuff. I am curious if they do kind of prey. Yeah, we're in the prey sphere now. We got rid of the Predators. Of like I feel like in just even going through the retros and in this movie, it even happened again of just, it seems like they have these checklist of things that they just have to cross off to like call it a Predator movie. We got to have the first aid scene, you know, you got to have like the callback line. And I'm curious if they kind of stick to that formula moving forward, because there is new things like with each new movie, but still like they just have this formula that like going forward, am I going to be like, oh, I haven't seen the first aid scene yet, and then oh no, there it is. You know, you can make like a bingo game out of it. I kind of hope that isn't the case moving forward, just because it's happened so many times. But
Espo says in the prayer they say "you're one beautiful motherfucker," and I almost kind of like that a bit better because of the play on that. Taylor, do you remember in AVP 1 or 2 did they have any Predator ripped off lines? I'm sure those movies that are bottom of the barrel have to do that, right? They must have some callback lines.
With the Predators, like seeing the face, because it's funny, I just watched them like not too long ago. They didn't actually say any of those lines, like "you're one ugly motherfucker." Because
no, I just mean any Predator lines, not that specific line, just any of them. The "kill me, I'm here." Get to the chopper.
No, none of that. Most of the derogatory terms were directed at the xenomorphs, not really any Predator stuff.
The directors were a fan of the aliens more. They're like, we gotta get that shit.
Apparently, yeah.
Go ahead. Anything else?
I was just gonna say, for like context, I just thought it was interesting because to now have more insight into that pistol, for all you Predator aficionados out there. So this was a comic book that they put out just to kind of cover the history on that pistol. And this is Raphael Adolini here, and he basically, in the comics, he suffers a mutiny because there's this treasure, and this Predator sees that, and the Predator ends up helping him survive this mutiny. And that Predator there is the older Predator in Predator 2 that gives the gun to Lieutenant Harrigan. So this is a cool storyline that they did in the comic books. But again, the comic books kind of canon and Predator stuff? Not at all. The books, everything, it's such a widespread like story. It's just crazy. I like what they're doing here because now you have other movies in the Predator verse that have focused always back on that original with Arnold, where it's like, hey, there was Guatemala. I think, Guatemala was actually where it was. I just got to recount the quotes, and that's how I can remember where it is. Guatemala in like 82 or something like that. And then that's what they always reference in these films going forwards. Now we have a film referencing specifically not that, but hey, Predator 2. And I think that's super fantastic because these subtle little Easter eggs, whether it be the Predator and you have an AVP reference in there, or you have Predators referencing the first film. It's just nice to have this continuously building world. Now, the other thing I wanted to comment on too, you mentioned that there was this specific weapon after you mentioned the bomb, Kirkland, and you mentioned it, Travis. Were you talking about that like loose like whip thing that like turn like, remember like those slapstick bracelets where it's like extended and that like whips? Is that what you were referring to?
Well, there was two. Well, I was at some point, but there was two because she got that used as weapon. But that was that what came up, because at one point something came up, metal, and like shot out a bunch and cut people down. I don't know if that was the exact same one, because those look like bigger pieces of metal.
Wasn't that the bomb? Like from his gauntlet he left there, and then the 3 discs came up, and then it like shot
I thought it was something like not, because I know Kirklin was talking about when they zoomed out and they just showed the lights of it, but I thought we saw like a visual of it and stuff. I'll have to look, because it was in that middle scene where just like he was throwing down a bunch of like, he was Batman. I want to see Batman Dead End. For people, go YouTube Batman Dead End. It's a great fan film of Batman versus the Predator, and I still want to see that in real life because the amount of gadgets they had. But yeah.
I will say that so I know you're trying to use this
last point. It's fine. You gotta keep going, but you pause and it's like, okay, here we go, and then you're like, last point here. I got one more.
One more. When they were all throwing down those French chaps, and they got the upper hand. The French chaps. They got the upper hand briefly because the Predator was walking and he stepped in that one trap and he fell and his shoulder landed in another trap and they threw that net on him. And then they were just, obviously they were drunk or something. They were cocky because that one French guy that was like smiling, like, oh yeah, we got him. And then just the wrist blade just shooting up into him. And the way the Predator like levitated up, it was like Chris Angel style. If you guys rewatch that scene, like he doesn't like do a flip up or a jump up. He literally just levitates up forwards. It's truly majestic.
Truly majestic.
Love that. That's
well,
awesome.
Dilmas, final thoughts on Prey.
Oh man, yeah. I don't know. I don't feel like I've kind of said it all. I love this movie. It was a lot of fun. I'm quite surprised by how much I enjoyed this one, and yeah, I could see myself rewatching this one a few times in my life. Like this is a good classic film, an instant classic, as the kids say. So, yeah, I liked it. It's great.
I love your reviews.
Pat,
yeah, I really really like this movie. I'm curious if like how my feelings of it's like ebbs or flows on more watches, because I think again just highlighting those scenes of just like the Comanche stuff, it was just so fun to see, and just her traversing like through the beautiful Canadian landscape, the Rockies. God, it looked gorgeous. I loved it. So that was fantastic, and all the Predator stuff. It was fantastic, and this one's called Prey, but still Predator's a big element of it. So I think they did a really good job with that usage, and like also I think they did a really good job at giving it some of that horror element that like Predator movies, they're not horror films, but like it's a terrifying situation that some of these characters find themselves in, and I think this movie really showcased that really good with just like the tension, and like Dylan shouted out that mud scene, like that even that was just like building of the tension, and the Predator wasn't even in that sequence, right? But it was still just like on edge of her just constantly missing those throws, and yeah, like just a really good usage of that, building that tension. So shouts out to the director and all that stuff. I think I'm going to give this one an 8.5 out of 10. I think it was a fantastic movie. I like I said, I think if they try to do maybe a little bit more practical things, like I get it. You can't just like train a bear to wrestle this gold medalist.
They did in that commercial.
They did in Semi-Pro. But like I just feel like those things are going to make it like rewatching, like just it's just a little messy here, and like I think with like the panther or the cougar, the whatever was hunting them, the lion thing, because it was nighttime, it helped a lot. But that bear's sequence when it was in the day, just like running at our protagonist, it just looked really messy in my eyes. So that's kind of where I'm docking it. Some points there, but yeah, all in all, fantastic film.
Yeah, no, I'm happy that I have another Predator film to absolutely love. I always liked various degrees of the other ones, but the first one was always the gold standard as far as, okay, I can watch this one. The rest are kind of be as close to, but this is something in that same camp, but completely different. I think the director, the crew, the cast did a great job. I'm 9 out of 10 on this one, and a lot higher than I thought I was going to be. But I really enjoyed it, and just even talking about it, I think I'll probably be watching again soon. Is just it's just easy watch, but an enjoyable watch. So yeah, I'm very happy, and I hope this kind of breathe some fresh life into the franchise. And I don't know if that also means you need Dan back for that, because I think he did a great job, and he's now taken like 2 franchises with Cloverfield and Predator now and done 2 installments that are again in the world but different than their predecessors. So I'm really excited just what he does in the future, because he's just created films that I generally really like. So yeah, 9 out of 10 for me on Prey.
Did he do a movie in between Cloverfield and this? Because that's been a few years.
I'll find out. I think what happened was I thought he was doing a movie and it kind of got like development held, and he went on to something else. But I'll take a look and see while Taylor's talking.
Yeah. So, I mean, talking this out with you guys has definitely put a lot more into perspective for me. And initially coming in, I wasn't set on giving it a 10 out of 10 because of certain things, but talking about it and just really getting into the nitty grittiness of the Predator and just the simplicity of what they created with this film. It didn't have to be anything flamboyant and extravagant. It just needed to be a basic story going back to its roots, showing us what a Predator is capable of in the right scenario where it meets a very powerful, cunning rival who can rise to the challenge. And I think Amber did a fantastic job in this film. Absolutely incredible. I think all the cast were amazing, and everything that was just building the escalation up in this film was just top tier. My only con would be that CGI, and I wish that this had that movie budget behind it, in a theatrical release. It would have been super cool, but I'm not gonna hold that against anyone. It is what it is, and they still delivered a banger of a freaking Predator film. I hope to God that this actually releases on a hard copy, because I really want to get this and put it on my shelf. And I know Disney Plus is definitely they're not keen on releasing their IPs on hard copies, but this being a Hulu thing, maybe there's a slight chance we could see something down the road.
Yeah, I'm not sure how it goes with Hulu. I know Disney Plus, they've been like, absolutely not, we're not doing that. But I was trying to find, I can't find a budget, but I will say from the budget standpoint, I feel like it looks a lot better than some of the Disney Plus stuff we've got. Now, obviously, it's just an hour and a half, but still, I think I would take some of this budget over that. But yeah, I was just trying to see the budget. But no, the only thing that was mentioned in June, that Dan stated that there are discussions for additional installments being developed after Prey, saying their intent was to do things that have not been done before in the franchise. So you might get more. And also in between, so he did not do another movie after 10 Cloverfield Lane, but he did a Black Mirror episode Playtest. Dylan, you remember that with Kurt Russell's kid when he's playing a game?
I love that episode.
Yep. So he did Playtest, and they also did an episode of The Boys, and then this movie. So yeah, he's done some TV over the time, but not an actual movie. So
I keep my eyes on this guy. He's got a great track record for me.
He's a player. Yeah, he did, and even then, yeah, no, he's man. 10 Cloverfield Lane was his first movie. Other ones were shorts and TV stuff. So he's just starting off his career. So, and the good thing about this is what I like. He fucking wrote it too. He wrote the story. He was credit story and screenplay. So he kind of has that thing of he doesn't have to wait for someone to write something good. And who knows, Taylor, maybe Prey is his future. And I think you're kind of. I think, well, hopefully not that, but I think Espa's probably right, 30 to 60 million. Yeah, I'd say high end 45 somewhere in there, because the cast is not going to cost much. So I think it's just pure landscape and everything. But yeah, so Taylor, you didn't slap a number. You were making us wait. What is your number?
I thought I slapped a number on there. I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10.
Okay, I didn't hear. Did you guys hear 10 out of 10? I didn't hear that.
I heard I'm not going to give it a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Well, going in, I wasn't going to, but after
You're
discussing,
leaving us on the edge of our seats.
it's got the 10er there.
It's got the 10. Well, ladies and gentlemen, again, 2022. I gotta wait till the year ends, but I think I'm pretty close to saying this is my favorite year of film ever. Not just even the podcast, just the amount of stuff we've gotten that it's just delivered and hit. Wow, it's one of those years we're gonna look back in 10 years, and be like, look at all the stuff that came out in this year, and it's not even over. forever. We got months left of good stuff. Yeah, so thank you everyone that tuned in live. Thank you to everyone that's tuning in now. Let us know in the Discord, the YouTube, the Facebook, Twitter, wherever your preference is, what you thought about it, maybe any theories, any other names I mispronounced, send them my way, and we'll do that. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and we promise when you hear from next, it'll not be boring.
Bye.
Bye.